So I'm waiting for the progress bar to load and officially start. Right now in the chat, let us know where you're calling in from and what career you're transitioning into UX, and also fill out a networking sheet where you can connect with fellow buddies and connect with each other, make friends. All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to our event about how to stand out as a UX job seeker with Springboard today. I'm Grace. I am the founder of Design Buddies. I'm also a designer myself at Electronic Arts. I founded Design Buddies. It's a large community of nearly 18,000 people on Discord, and Design Buddies just an inclusive community where anybody interested in design. We have a lot of UX designers in here as well. Connect, get free resources, go to free events like this, and just vibe and have fun mentorships and even more resources and events as well. We have fun meetups, and definitely feel free to join our community with the links shared in the chat today and connect with us as well. We're so excited to welcome Springboard, and for the event, please don't plug your LinkedIn in the chat. We have a networking sheet for that, so you can plug all the information you want in that too. And then we'll also be taking a group photo afterwards. Before that, we have a Q&A. And we're so excited to welcome Calvin and Nipa from Springboard. Calvin actually comes equipped with over a decade of experience working on both sides of employment services. He has dedicated his career to help building great teams and helping talented professionals and students successfully navigate the job search landscape. For the past few years, Calvin has been working at Springboard on the UX UI design career tracks and preparing students to land awesome roles. As a fellow bootcamp graduate himself, Calvin has an appreciation for the work and commitment needed to succeed and love for design. When he's not working with the top-notch students at Springboard, you can find him tinkering with DIY projects, checking out his local indie bands, and exploring all the Pacific Northwest has to offer. Definitely connect with Calvin on LinkedIn. Nipa is a career services manager for the design vertical at Springboard, building and supporting a team of talented career coaches and helping students land jobs. She has over 10 plus years of experience working with career changers and advancers, all of you, pursuing opportunities at various companies within the Bay Area and other metro areas. She has also worked closely with hiring managers and recruiters in many sectors, including consulting, tech, finance, and healthcare, to understand their hiring needs and how students can become competitive candidates. Nipa also holds a master's in counseling, specializing in career counseling, and has an MBA in human resources management. Thank you so much, Calvin and Nipa, for taking your time with us today. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that lovely introduction, Grace. Nipa, do you want me to pop up the slide deck right now and we can kind of hand it over to you?
Yeah, that'd be great. And while everyone's kind of getting settled here, I know I'm the person who's standing between you and some of this great content. So just wanted to reiterate that Calvin is one of a team of really talented career coaches that we have at Springboard who have helped design students in the best of times, but most notably have been instrumental in helping students in the job search during the pandemic. And I'm excited to hand this over to Calvin, who's going to share his insights, not only based on his experience in recruitment as a career coach, but also his experience really helping students to stand out in the job market, in a very saturated job market that we saw in 2020 and still in some ways continue to see. And without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Calvin.
Awesome. So I just want to double check. Can everyone see my slide deck right now? Is that a yes or
yes,
no?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, awesome. I'm always used to kind of like some feedback on this. Yeah, so just kind of getting going on there. Again, really thanks for the great intro on there. Just wanted to do a couple quick housekeeping items before we get going on there. First off, I just want to thank Grace and Nabil and the Design Buddies community out there for setting this up and reaching out to Springboard and asking us to do this. On our end, I want to give a big shout out to Nipa and Elaine for making this so easy and doing all the coordinating. So basically all I had to do was develop the content and show up today. The other item I want to say, and I don't think he's in the room right now, but I do have a helper. He's got one duty and he's really good at it. And if someone dares walk in the hallway, one of my neighbors, he's going to give him a big bark. So I just want to give everyone a big heads up in case my dog starts talking. That's kind of what he does out there. So I just kind of want to get it the way. Anyways, just to get started and kind of give you a rundown of what we're going to do today. I think Grace already kind of mentioned it, but we basically have 2 items that we're going to run through. We're going to go through the content of the presentation, and there's kind of a bit of an agenda on there. Should take about 20 minutes, and then we're going to turn it over to you for the Q&A period and spend about 20, 25, maybe a little bit longer, because I think we talked about extending it until noon on there. So we're going to have some time. Nipa's going to be monitoring that throughout the presentation as well. So put all your questions in the Slido. And in all honesty, like, no questions too silly for this. Anything, even if it's something, you know, like, do you need a portfolio to apply for a UX job? Toss it in there. Depending on the votes, we'll be able to get to it. And any questions that you don't get to, honestly, feel free to reach out to Springboard. We'll have some contact at the end, or you're always welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask me any of these questions out there. So yeah, just want to kind of get through that and then get going on this stuff out there. And then we thought, so yeah, just kind of getting going with this, we thought starting off with maybe some of the challenges that I think students, new designers, and even more experienced designers are seeing in the field right now. And so I think the big one out there is it is a popular field. There's a lot of people trying to get it in there and, you know, trying to find roles, and there definitely are a lot of roles out there. But in order to be able to get that, you need to start doing what the 80% of people aren't doing. And that's what we're going to really try to frame this presentation around, is what are those 20% of job seekers that are getting opportunities and really getting a lot of leverage? What are they doing, and how can you start doing that a little bit more? Another thing I'm sure you guys have encountered as well too, I think every entry-level job, junior-level job, I've seen it plenty of times, you know, they're asking for just an absorbent amount of experience. We'll maybe navigate how to get around that as well too, and, you know, feel comfortable applying for jobs that maybe are a little bit more experienced than you're looking at. Again, pertinent, pandemic has shifted the way we work. I think previously, you know, remote work was kind of reserved for, you know, people that already had experience working remote or experience working in UX, ideally both. Nowadays, everyone that gets hired and onboarded is kind of in a remote situation. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of shifts back. And then the dreaded imposter syndrome. All of our students at one point or another experience that, and hopefully this presentation will help give you some ideas on how to kind of get around that and just work through that stuff. But it is normal to kind of encounter that stuff. So yeah, we just want to kind of present a couple of the challenges that I think a lot of people are facing out there, and just kind of call that out, that, you know, if these are things that you've seen out there, you're not alone in this stuff. Awesome. So just kind of moving along, the first thing we wanted to start talking about is perfecting your why. So this is one thing that we introduced early on in the course for our students, and we think it's super important in terms of like your job search, your networking, and pretty much every component out there. And so this is really just kind of like articulating, like, why did you bother to get into UX UI design out there? And so just kind of starting off with why this is even important. I mean, just at the very base level, you're going to be asked this in every single interview process. I can guarantee you in one way or another, whether it's at the start of the interview, later on, at any stage on there, you're going to be asked this question, and the more prepared you are, the better it is. Also, if you don't have this, other people are going to have this prepared, and they're going to be the ones that are going to stand out, right? So we really want to ensure that we can articulate why we're getting into UX. The other benefit is that it provides a great narrative to your journey into UX. This is especially helpful for career transitioners. And I was looking through the chat, and there's so many interesting, you know, people that are moving from, you know, whether it's like medical, accounting, coffee shop, that kind of stuff out there. And so for people that are changing careers, or people that have like a very kind of linear path in terms of their career, it's really important to have a narrative as to why you're making that shift over into UX. And we'll talk a little bit more in the next slide about how to kind of find that. And then most importantly as well, is it helps tie your background skills and competencies together about why you're a great candidate. So many times I talk to students early on and I ask them, like, what do you think your background kind of brings to the table? And they'll be like, I have zero experience. And it's almost always untrue. You know, whether you've got project management experience, you know, great communication skills, process, problem solving, all those kind of things, there's almost every opportunity to kind of leverage some background skills. And again, this is a really great way to kind of have that in a nice hard-hitting way of sharing that in your interview process out there. And then just kind of getting a little more specific on how to kind of find this. And so this isn't necessarily the gold standard of how to go about that. There's many, many ways in terms of solidifying your why, but these are often questions that I pose with students early on. I just get them thinking a little bit more about ideas that they'd want to include, transferable skills and interests. And so one of the first things is, again, just using transferable skills right off the bat. When you're first getting into UX, you know, you may not be familiar with a lot of the languages or a lot of the competencies needed. And so I always recommend using job postings right off the bat. Go find a couple UX job postings, read through the section that describes the role. Don't worry too much about the qualifications. And that can give you some ideas of things that maybe you've done in a different career, maybe you've done with a different goal or different process, but still might have had some similarities on there to kind of tease out. The second thing you want to think about too is, you know, are your interests specific in UX? You know, is it research focus that you're looking at? Are you more on the visual side? Do you have specific industries that you're interested in as well too? Maybe you want to help, you know, nonprofit companies, you know, improve their UI or really help them get their message out a little bit better, but that can always help solidify, you know, the reason for getting in. And then again, what first exposed you? So this is kind of like the catalyst out there. What kind of got this all in motion? Maybe it was a workplace, assignment or a project that you got involved in. I had a student that worked at Deloitte, and she was tossed onto a digital team there. And that really exposed her into, the field of UX UI, and really let her kind of understand she wanted to make that pivot. Friends and family, maybe you have friends and family that work, in UX UI roles out there, or maybe they have people that they know that they can connect you with as well too. Or maybe you just did some online research out there and you were finding that your background really pivoted well to UX UI design. But these are some things that are really important and kind of like thinking about and writing some answers on in terms of solidifying. And you can pretty easily weave something together using these questions above as well. Awesome.
I just have a quick request if you
Yeah.
can put in present mode.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to find that on there. I think my browser's kind of a little.
And no worries if you can't.
If there's like a short key or something.
Command 0 to reset the zoom. The zoom in, zoom out setting.
Okay. Did that work?
Are you on Mac?
Yeah.
Command 0 should work.
I'm gonna try and reset it.
Command minus.
I can increase the slide if that helps.
Yeah, I mean,
that does help.
whatever you're most comfortable with.
Sure. I mean, I don't know, like the whole options up there disappeared, but yeah, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, yeah, awesome. So just kind of getting back in the swing of things. Yeah, I was just kind of finishing up. Again, super important out there. If this is something that you're struggling to kind of articulate out there, it's really going to impact your interview process and your networking. And so definitely focus on thinking about this, putting some thoughts down out there, and just being able to weave together. It doesn't need to be long. A couple quick sentences or, a couple quick comments about that. And it can be really helpful when you're doing your interviews and doing your networking out there. So I just want to share that. The next thing, I'm sure you guys have heard all about this, it's a really hot topic, leveraging your network out there. I want to share a couple tips and strategies that'll hopefully be a little more out of the box. I find a lot of the content out online is really basic stuff. Go on LinkedIn, find someone, reach out, and obviously everyone's already done that. And some people have varying results. Some people are really successful. Other people aren't so much out there, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about how to network outside of that, and also some ways to get that a little bit more effective. But this is one comment I always start off, every call when I'm doing networking calls with students. I always tell them, listen, it's not going to be fun necessarily. Even if you don't enjoy it, it's something that works. It absolutely works, and I can guarantee that. Even looking at my last six or seven students in terms of their job outcomes, I can tie each and every one of those to some form of networking, whether it was someone who reached out to a friend from high school, someone who posted on Instagram, someone who even did a cold outreach and developed some connection on there and got a referral. But that is super helpful, and that kind of leads into the next point about referrals. When you're applying to companies out there, whether it's a big company or a small company, anytime you have a referral or someone that's internally kind of vouching for you, that can be the difference between getting an interview. I was reading a couple articles about some of the bigger companies, Airbnb, Facebook, their design team specifically. They said they hire 50% of their candidates come from referrals out there. So that can be a really great way to stand out in the masses, and being able to network effectively can be a great way to do that. It also really opens up the keys to the hidden job market. So like a lot of people spend time on LinkedIn and, you see the jobs there. That is a very small percentage of available jobs out there. And so the more you network, the more people you have in your network, the more accessible things are. I have a lot of people that share posts on LinkedIn and saying just something like, we're looking for a designer, send me over your portfolio and resume, or, I have a friend looking for some help. And that kind of stuff can be really helpful out there. And where I live in Vancouver, I can guarantee that a lot of the junior and entry level roles, they aren't even going to make it to LinkedIn, because people are going to find candidates within their networks already that are going to be able to take those jobs on there, right? So if you're seeing that there's not a lot of junior and entry level roles in your area, start tapping into the market a little bit more there and see if there's some other opportunities that kind of pop up. And then the last comment on this before I get into some strategies, I always tell my students, you have way more context at your disposal than you think. Everyone always says that they don't know anyone. And when we start getting a little bit more into it, they're like, oh yeah, my friend actually works at Airbnb as a designer, or, I know this contact. And we'll talk about some ways to kind of tease that out a little bit more on there. Cool. So yeah, just your existing network right off the bat. Like in all honesty, this is one of the most overlooked things for students. Everyone goes immediately to cold outreach on LinkedIn, and everyone just forgets that they have all these great resources at access. Alma Mater can be fantastic. Quick search on LinkedIn by filtering through that, either for UX designer or the specific companies you're interested in, can yield a lot of results. Bootcamp, if you're a bootcamp grad out there, tons of people as well, whether they're designers that are already working. At Springboard, we have many verticals. I know we've got software engineering, cybersecurity, data science, and design. So even if you saw someone that was like a data scientist at a company you're interested in, I would reach out because there's someone that can sympathize with what's going on. There's someone that can connect you with designers. And a lot of times it's thinking about who can I talk to that can maybe connect me to a designer out there as well. And so that kind of leads into the next point, snowballing connections from your friends, family, and colleagues. Again, that's an overlooked thing. And just thinking of an example out there, like my sister would be the last person I would think about in terms of like trying to network, not because there's any issue with her, but she just, as a project manager for an engineering company. And when I first moved out to Vancouver, one of the first things I did was actually ask her, like, do you have any friends that are on the West Coast? And I didn't really think it was going to be super successful, but she had an awesome friend that I actually knew as well too from growing up with her that lived in San Francisco that worked at Mixtrack. She was able to open up her network to me as well and really help my job search when I moved out here. So you never know who can kind of help you out. And, worst case scenario, they say no, quick message away. And I always encourage people to kind of think about that stuff out there. Another thing as well, social media. I've had students that have posted on Facebook and just say like, hey, I'm making this transition. If you know of anyone involved, let me know. And that can also yield some really good results on there. Just speaking a little bit more to the cold outreach, I'm sure everyone's done that as well too, of, message someone on LinkedIn, and it comes with varying results. And obviously there's a number of factors, how often are they on LinkedIn? How interested are they in networking? Did they even see the message? And so that's some of the issues that pop up on there. In terms of cold outreach on LinkedIn, like I find some of the best uses for that is identifying who you want to reach out to. And then I start looking for people's emails. So I'll look on their profile and their contact info. You guys have the benefit of being in design, so most people have portfolios as well too. So you can always pop on their portfolio and look for their contact section or email there. And I just send my message directly to them. I know it's a little abrupt, but there's a couple of advantages because first off, I know everyone gets emails right off the bat, whereas I don't know if everyone gets a LinkedIn message. Second off, it gives me much more space. When you're working with LinkedIn, you usually have to send that contact request first, hope that they accept it, and then send them a longer message. Email, you can just get right into it on there. And I found that when students kind of shift that focus a little bit, the success has increased a fair amount on there as well. So just a couple of ways to kind of use LinkedIn a little more effectively in terms of your outreach on that. And then just kind of continuing with the theme for a little bit on there, just some other ways to kind of get out of the box and kind of switch things up a little bit more too. Online events can be awesome. Hackathons out there, kind of built-in networking, and there's many impacts on that, right? Like you're forced to network with people. These are generally people that are already in the industry out there. And you have a really great project to kind of show. For example, I did a startup weekend, I think back in 2014, and 2 people on my team I'm still in like remotely frequent contact with as well, like 6 or 7 years later. So a really great way to get out there and have something to show both for your network and for your portfolio. Workshops as well too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like bite-sized workshops with Joe Formica. I've done a few myself and they're awesome. Usually within 3 hours, you get an opportunity to network with some awesome people. You learn something new, and best of all, you get a really cool piece for your portfolio. So if you guys don't know about that, I would definitely encourage you to check out Joe Formica bite-sized workshops. They're usually about $19 on there, and really great use of the money on there, in my opinion. And then just kind of finishing up with some other stuff on there too is like thinking, where specifically can I look for UX communities? And so if you're looking for some easy wins in terms of networking, ADP List, Lunch Club, UX Coffee Hours, I would 100% recommend that if you're struggling with your networking. ADP List is beautiful. You can basically just go on, identify who you want to talk to, look in their calendar, and then you just pick a slot with them. You don't have to message them. You don't have to deal with any of that kind of stuff on there. And so for students that are struggling with this, I always just say, just go book 2 calls on there, see what it's like to set up an informational interview, see what it's like to go through, and use that momentum to continue moving forward on there. But it's a really great resource, and it's a growing database as well. And then also, obviously, communities like this, like I was originally thinking Design Buddies was 13,000. Grace had just informed us that it's at 18,000 now, which is fantastic. Tons of great opportunities to connect and network and go to events and all things like that. So it's always good to kind of get involved in a little bit more UX specific communities on that kind of stuff.
Calvin, really quick, there has been money request to me to slow down on the chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I just have so much content, so I'll slow down, but I may go over a little bit more on that.
Yeah, no worries.
And I'm happy to answer any questions of things I kind of breeze through on here too afterwards, or even on LinkedIn after. So I apologize for that stuff, guys.
No worries. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for that. So yeah, so the next thing I want to spend some time talking about is getting to the point of your portfolio, right? So once you've got a great network, you've got that working for you and you're feeling comfortable with that, the next piece is really building out your portfolio. And so one thing we've identified that really helps separate, I think, just, you from the masses out there is the more volunteer, internship, and real world experiences that you have. I would say that's probably the number one piece of feedback that new designers receive is it's great that you've got all these projects on there, but we want to see more things that are real world applicable, more things where you had some constraints, more things where you worked with team members, more experiences on there where it wasn't just free range on the projects, right? And so that's one thing, and not to get too promotional or anything like that, but we've really strived to incorporate at Springboard. We have an awesome industry design project that each student gets to at the end of the course, usually about a 4 or 5 week project to work with a real company. We have an awesome team as well that scopes them out, ensures that the project is going to be accessible. And this is often one of the factors that really helps people in their interviewing process out there. And when it comes to project presentations, that's what they use. So it's a really great experience. Some benefits of that is it's a great way to network again. So if you're working on a team and they know that they can't hire you afterwards and they love the work that you're doing, they're going to want to vouch for you. They're going to feel a little bad about not being able to bring you on. And so they're going to look in their networks too, and they're going to be really open to connecting you with whoever. Second thing, which is what we're talking about, adds to your portfolio, and it really builds up, different kinds of projects that you can have on there, right? Like I think when people get into doing concept projects, everyone thinks every project needs to be a capstone, and that's not what you're going to be doing when you're in the job. You're going to have all different sides of the projects out there. It could be tweaking a messaging feature, it could be releasing a new feature, it could be doing an entire app or something like that. So it just shows a little bit more of a range in the portfolio. And also it really builds your interviewing confidence out there. So I had a student that was struggling with questions around working with developers before he did his industry design project. And he was basically making up answers, talking about what he would do in those situations. And so when he was doing his IDP, he actually got to work with developers a lot. He took on the lead role with the team and was really just basically fantastic in the project. And so once he was through that and he got the interview, he was knocking those questions out of the park. He was so confident. He had great experience to kind of lean on. So that's a really underrated quality of getting more real world experience. You'll build your interview confidence. You'll build your catalog of things to even use for that too. So great ways to find them. So you guys all already know, internship websites, job sites, LinkedIn, and all that can be great ways. And so I want to talk about some other ways to kind of dig this out as well too. And so again, not to keep harping on it, your friends and family and your network, these are people that want to help you out there. I got involved in a project about 4 or 5 years ago with a friend of mine who had a kind of funny situation. He was looking around for hot dog stands at night in Toronto and couldn't find any of them. And so he wanted to build a bit of an app where we could locate them and do that. And so he'd reached out to me because he knew I was kind of interested, and we were able to put something together for that. So you never know who of your friends are either working on something, have an idea, or even can connect you with some other people as well too, right? So I would always encourage you, if you're looking for that, put a post on Facebook, put a post on LinkedIn. If you have any friends that are more techie as well, reach out to them, ask them if they know of anyone out there. It can be a really great way to kind of get some projects going. Second thing, the briefcase method. I don't have a ton of time to go super in depth on this, but essentially what you're doing in this is identifying a business, be that local, something online, something that you're kind of familiar with, and identifying things you think you can help them improve on. And then kind of pitching it to them and saying, listen, I think you could do this, this, and this, and it will yield X amount, or, really increase your sales or really improve on this, and offer to kind of help them out on there. An example, that I think would represent that is like I play baseball here. We have only 2 batting cages in Vancouver, and one of them is one that basically our entire league uses. The sign-up process is really awful. You basically have to email back and forth, pay in person, and it's something that could be easily fixed on there of just having like a booking system online, a payment system online, and then that would save a lot of work for him, save a lot of work for every people booking. And so like pitching something like that can be a really easy way of getting involved in something as well too, and helping someone else out on there. A couple other ways to look for that too. Again, kind of browsing and posting on social media. I see a ton of things on LinkedIn just due to the sheer amount of contacts I have in UX. People that are looking for help or posting on there, posting on behalf of their friends as well too, right? So it's always good to kind of skim some of these. Twitter, I saw someone even post on Instagram yesterday looking for some help as well too. So that can be really great ways to kind of get that stuff going. And then to a lesser extent, forums like Product Hunt, Slack communities on there can be a good way of looking at stuff as well too. Cool. Just wanted to do a quick check-in. Is the speed okay now? You get a thumbs up? Okay. All right. So once you've got your portfolio looking awesome and you're getting interviews and everything's working out well on there, you want to make sure that your storytelling is high quality on there. This is going to be what really separates you from the pack in the interview process and really helps you stand out, especially against more experienced designers. And so I've kind of broken it down into two different components on here. And so the first one is on your portfolio. So I've seen a tremendous amount of case studies and portfolios in my time working on this program, and there's definitely a big range of what's successful and what's not successful out there. I think early on when people are writing them, they feel the need to include every single step of the process, every single note on there, and it becomes really cumbersome. And it reads more like someone was following a set of instructions or really baking like a cake due to a recipe, rather than someone who's understanding why they're using these tools, understanding the process, and having some autonomy over what's going on there as well too, right? So you don't want to overwhelm or include everything. You want to kind of think like highlight reel ESPN style on there, what does people need to know to be able to put that together? And if you guys are looking for a good example, Simon Pan, I'm sure some of you have already checked his stuff out there, but he's probably the gold standard in my opinion of like great storytelling and simple case studies on there. You'll read through his stuff, and honestly, it doesn't even feel like you're reading through a case study. It's honestly just like reading a story. It's a really cool way of navigating it, and so that's something to kind of aspire for in terms of that stuff. But yeah, you want to think kind of less is more in this. And you can always get your friends or family who aren't as familiar with it to kind of read through and see if they have any questions about how you got from step A to step B or step C to step D. And that's how you know if there are any gaps in what's going on there. But if they can follow along, you should be good to go on that. And then on the other end, when you get to interviews, you still got to do some storytelling on there. And so this is often the deciding factor and a lot of feedback that some of our candidates get when they get to the end of it and they're told that they're not going to get the job. It could be due to experience or it could be because their storytelling wasn't impactful enough on there. And so this is where it gets a little difficult because you have many different audiences on here. You have stories for recruiters. And so when you're doing the initial interviews on there, the 30-minute interviews, you really have a very short time to make an impact on those. So you want to think, I've got 3 to 4 minutes to share my project, bite-sized stories, and best to use the STAR technique in this situation. What was the situation? What was the task or problem I'm solving? What were the actions and process I went through? And most of all, what was the result or impact of that? And being able to do that effectively in 3 to 4 minutes is going to be key in getting you to the next steps. Project presentations is going to be entirely different on that end. You're basically going to have 30 minutes or an hour to run through 1 or 2 projects. And so you need to be able to get deep in there and explain your process and be able to kind of like wow the design hiring manager team on there, right? So a little bit different in those kind of areas out there. And then most of all with design challenges too, for any of you that encounter them, you still want to keep that storytelling element involved in this as well too, right? Like you want to treat it as if it was actually a work project. You're presenting the stakeholders as well. So don't just think of it as an assignment. Think of it just as a presentation out there and really impact on your storytelling. Awesome. And then so just getting to the last thing here before I kind of hand it over to you guys and do the Q&A, using content to stand out can be an incredible way to really get some visibility and really come across as showing yourselves an authority in the figure. I had a student that I worked with late in the course. I'd had her on LinkedIn for a long time and I honestly didn't know she was a student until I had a call with her. She would post a lot about the hackathons that she was in. She would do write-ups, post about their place in it. And it was someone that I saw, I was like, really involved in the industry, someone I assumed that had been working in UX for a number of years. And so when I saw her name on my call log, I was kind of a little surprised on that, but immediately she was someone that I saw was an authority figure, someone who knew what she was doing. And if I was in a position to invite someone for an interview, she would 100% be someone that I would have recognized and I would have invited in there. So again, increases your visibility as a job seeker. LinkedIn is beautiful for this. Say Nico posted something, like a video or an article, and I saw it and I commented on it. Now everyone in my network sees that as well too, right? So that gets increased visibility just through that snowballing. The added element of continuing to show your involvement in the industry too. And then I think it provides you an extra opportunity to continue to show your process, your mindset, even gives you a chance to increase your range of skills. I had a student that was doing the UI, I think daily UI. She felt like she needed to really improve on that. And so basically every 10 assignments that she had, she would do a bit of a roundup and post on there and post kind of like a hit list of her best designs of those last 10 on there. And it was a really cool way to kind of like watch her journey and improve on that skill set as well too. And then, yeah, just kind of lastly, before we turn it over, just some ways to create content out there, super simple, YouTube videos right off the bat. I've had students that have offered to be guests, for different kind of content out there, and they've really enjoyed it. It's been great to kind of post on their LinkedIn or on their portfolio. If you guys want to get into creating content as well too, that can be an awesome way on there. Obviously, there's a little bit of work involved in it, but it can pay some great returns long-term. Medium articles, super easy to do that, whether it's like write-ups on your experience in boot camp, job searching. Maybe if you're doing case study write-ups, that can be a really easy thing to do. As well, they have a lot of publications on there like UX Collective, UX Planet, and I've had a number of students that have submitted to those publications. They've got published on Medium, which gives them a lot more visibility, and then they cross-post to LinkedIn as well too. So Medium's an awesome platform out there to get there. I get a lot of my content through Medium or through LinkedIn posts about Medium as well, and very, very simple to submit to some publications and get some additional kind of notoriety on there. And then the last thing I want to kind of run through on there is just, using LinkedIn as well too, right? So as I said, cross-posting can be a really great way of doubling up on content. If it's a video, if it's an article, something else you wrote elsewhere too, can be really great to get that second audience. As I mentioned earlier about that Student 2 hackathon write-ups can be a really awesome way to show you're in the game and, show that you're effective as a designer as well too. She was consistently placing in the top 3, and so it was really worth kind of posting that on there. And the last couple of things on there too, just introspective. So, if you guys have some, insights into the industry, the job market, where the industry is heading, design trends, always cool to kind of share those on there. And then the last thing is just like excellent resources to share as well, right? Whether it's like a, set of UI design kits or, a great website to find volunteer work, any of those things out there, people remember who post good content, and that's something that, can really help you out on there as well too. So again, I appreciate you guys sticking with me for those last 20 minutes or 30 minutes on this. I know I went through pretty quick on that, so I apologize for that. As I said, any additional questions, anything I kind of breezed through on there, I'd encourage you to reach out on the Q&A and post a question, or just reach out on LinkedIn. I'd always be happy to help on that. I believe there's also going to be, I think, an email or two for Springboard. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more, you have any questions about that stuff, you can direct them there, and Nicole will be able to send them my way, or if she can, kind of help on that, she'll deal with it as well too. So yeah, thank you for that, and we'll turn it over to Nipa and start hammering out some questions.
Hey, Calvin, thank you so much. There's so much great content there. And I know there was a couple of questions about this. Yes, we will be sharing the slides. And then we'll also have links to some of the resources that were mentioned on the slides so that you all can easily access that. There's a ton of great questions that came in, and I'm super excited about them. So the first one we have here is, can you talk about addressing the why people should refer you to a position, or just in general, if they don't know you personally or they don't know your work because you don't have the experience?
Yeah, that's a great question out there. So I think, in terms of why people would want to do that, I think like it's oversimplified a lot online. I think people say, reach out, message someone, ask for a referral, and that's how it goes. And it's not always how that goes. I think there's definitely a couple steps in terms of being genuine and making someone feel comfortable about referring you in. And when I talk about networking and getting referrals, I always encourage students to start early and make that initial contact. Start by talking to someone, just showing interest in their background, showing interest in what they do at the work, getting tips and advice for them on what you can do in terms of your profile. And then once you've made that initial contact and you see that a role does pop up, it's so much easier to just reach back in and be like, hey, Nipa, thanks for taking the time in March. I really love talking to you, learning more about your journey into UX and what you guys are doing at Springboard. I noticed you guys had a role that popped up for a junior designer, and I wanted to just talk to you for maybe 10 minutes and see if you think it'd be a good fit for me. And then you can kind of go in the conversation, right? And so once you ask a few questions on that, it can be a little easier to kind of leverage that referral out of it. And you can ask questions like, well, do you guys have a referral process? Is there anyone you can recommend reaching out to? And so that's the way I like to do it, a little more genuine on that kind of stuff. And then the second thing, a lot of people are incentivized to put in referrals as well too. I know there's tons of companies out there that if you refer someone in and that person gets hired, they might get $1,000. I worked at an accounting firm where if you referred in anyone above a senior manager, you get 10K. So there's definitely a bit of a monetary incentive on there as well too. So there's a lot of reasons for people to actually give you a referral in there. But as I said, it's not as simple as like people make it seem online. You've got to kind of put a bit of a work in terms of developing a relationship, or at least showing that, you're not just coming to them for a job referral out there. Hopefully that answered what they were looking for.
And that's also why, having your LinkedIn looking top-notch and having content out there just to build up your credibility is helpful if someone's going to refer you. I know when some folks have asked me for referrals, I might actually hop on a call with them first and then do the referral. So if you have like a great LinkedIn profile and I can see that you're involved in the design community, then that's going to make me more likely to want to refer you. Awesome. Second question, what are employers really looking for on a UX design portfolio? How can you stand out with your portfolio?
Yeah, no, it's a great question out there. And I mean, I think it's one of those things that's a bit of a roaming target as well too. Every team kind of has a bit of a different list in terms of what their needs are. I would say in terms of your case study, just in general out there, a lot of what I talked about was like showing your process, showing that you can actually distill down and not really give everything at once, and understand what are the important things on there. So as again, the storytelling is a huge thing that people are looking for, both built into your case studies and obviously when you interview. I think like a good visual skill set, even if you're not looking for a visual role on there too, like if you've got a poor design of your portfolio, if it's clunky, if there's any UI issues, even if your UI designs on your projects look kind of poor as well too, that can be something that can turn off a lot of employers out there. But I think what they're looking for is someone that understands what they're doing in the process, understands when and why to use tools, they can articulate that well. And I think at the end of the day, someone that can show that they can be a good team member, whether that's through cross collaboration, other team projects. And that's why, again, having like projects that show a range, not just, like 4 or 5 different concept projects. They're like having projects where maybe you've worked with a team doing a small thing or worked on a bigger project or worked on a mobile and a web. Having a variety of skill sets on there in your case studies too can really help show the range that you have for an employer.
Awesome. And just remember that the portfolio is a major piece of your job search pie, but it's not the only thing. So you want to make sure that all the pieces are in place. And there's a couple of questions about networking, so I'm actually going to combine them.
Yeah.
One of the questions is like, how do you actually begin to network with other designers or recruiters?
Yeah. So that's a big question on there. And I think at the end of the day, it really depends on your goal on that, right? If you're early on in your journey and you're really just trying to build your network, that's going to be different than if you're later on and looking for jobs. And so I think early on when you're doing that, right, like you just want to identify people that are really doing things that you're either interested in or things that you have questions. And so when I first start talking about informational interviews, I always encourage students to just write down a list of things you want to learn more about. Do you want to talk to someone who's been through a boot camp and found a job? Do you want to talk to someone who's went from an agency environment to a full-time environment or vice versa? Do you want to talk to someone who's worked in a UX research role or a visual role? And just make that list of questions and start finding people that have those kind of experiences to really lean on. That'll help with your messaging right off the bat because you'll have an actual purpose instead of just like the endless writing block of like, oh, they're a UX designer, I want to reach out. Like you'll have a specific purpose and it'll be much easier to, compose your message. For the person on the other end, they'll see that you have a genuine reason for wanting to reach out. They're like, oh, this person's like actually curious about how hard it was or how easy it was to, make that transition out there. I'm happy to share that information out there. So, that's something that I would do in the early stage out there. I think with recruiters, if you're thinking about the early stage as well too, basically what you want to do is build a catalog of people that you can trust and you can leverage down the line. And so, sending a quick message, just saying like, hey, I'm Calvin, I'm a career coach turning into a UX designer right now, and I'm going through a foundational boot camp. Really just starting to build my network right now in terms of people that are hiring for these sort of roles. And I thought I'd reach out and maybe just connect with you, whether you want to chat down the line or even just hop on a call right now. I'd love to just start making that connection and start working towards that. And so once you put those things in place, when you get down the line and you're ready to start like looking at jobs and putting your portfolio, those recruiters will be awesome because you can just hit them all back up, do like an email blast and be like, hey, I'm ready, my portfolio, let's connect for 10 to 15 minutes and talk about what you've been working on and what I've been working on. And you can get them going. And then with actual designers out there, you've already planted some seeds so you can kind of connect back with these individuals. But that can be a really good way. Another way to kind of connect with designers too, and I try to like honestly build up my network in any way possible. I send a lot of contact requests out there just to get people involved, and anyone posting stuff online that's remotely interesting, like comment on it, follow up on it. Like that's like super low hanging fruit and can really start some awesome conversations. Like someone posted a job or someone posted like a really cool resource on there that's helpful, comment, send them a direct message. Hey Grace, that was awesome resource you sent out there, really helpful in terms of like getting my networking strategy out of just spending it all on LinkedIn. Like how did you discover this? Or, something like that is super easy to start those conversations out there, and highly recommended on that.
That's awesome. So a couple things that I'm hearing from you is, number one, your message is definitely going to depend on who you're reaching out to, whether they're professionals or they're recruiters, and then coming from a place of genuine curiosity in your approach, just so you're more likely to get a response. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say like in terms of the message as well too, like make sure you have like a clear CTA. A lot of messages students send me for review. They're like, hey, I'd love to chat sometime. Let me know what works. And if you think about the person on the other end, they're like, just got an unsolicited message. They're probably pretty busy and getting a lot in there. And so they might not want to go to the trouble of being like, yeah, here's like 7 times, let's set it up. So I always say, put in a built-in CTA. Like if you have time Thursday, Friday, I'd love to connect for 5 to 10 minutes. If those days don't work, let me know and I'll set it all up. Make it as easy as possible for them to accept.
Totally, yeah. Okay, so switching gears a little bit from networking, we have a question about how do you approach a UX designer, a junior UX designer role that's asking for 3 years of experience? I know that we've all probably encountered that.
Yeah, for sure. No, great question on there. And totally right. Everyone's going to encounter that at one point or another. And you're often left thinking, okay, why? So in general, my approach for job postings, I've written hundreds in my career out there, and I've had bosses that have arbitrarily wanted the experience on there. I look at it as malleable. So a couple of things on there. I read through the description of the role. I don't really concern myself with the qualifications first, and I'll read through what they're describing your daily tasks would be of your projects. And if I can comfortably say, like, I could crush 70% of what they're asking for in there, I'm going to put myself forward for that. I know that those qualifications are basically a set of a wish list of what they would love to get or what they expect they're going to get for that role. It's not always what they end up with. Or if you're someone that they really like, they might be able to adapt it on there, right? So my rule is if you can say you can do 70% of the job and they're not asking for anything from like 7 to 10 years, anything up to 5 to 7 is fine. Put your best foot forward on there. Make the recruiters earn their own money. That's their job. Their job is to decide whether you're a good candidate or not. Your just job is to decide whether you can do that role and put yourself forward on that. So I don't put a lot of stock into that. I even had a boss who, and no lie, I had to like yell at him every time I was posting a job and say like, how many years do you want on this? And I am 100%, he was just super arbitrary of like, oh, 3 to 5, 5 to 7 on this. And it meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. So with that said, there definitely are companies that are going to be a little harder on that requirement. But if you can stand out in other ways and really just show them that you're someone that's coming in, that's hungry, that's experienced, and has a lot of transferable skills, that'll become less of a factor out there. It's more of just something everyone feels the need to put on rather than something that's really focused on.
Great, thank you. And the next question I know is something that a lot of our students have dealt with when it comes to building out their portfolio. If you've worked on projects where there's an NDA in process, are there any ways to show that you had real experience? And how do you put that on your portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing you'd want to do is just have an open conversation with the design team manager or whoever your supervisor is on this project and just kind of say like, okay, what can I say? What can I say? And just get an idea of what are the limitations and abilities that you can do on there. I would say the next step is to draft up, based on what their constraints are and kind of review it with them. Just make sure they're cool with everything that's on there. And you can still get away with a lot of stuff without maybe mentioning, the specifics or the specific company or specific kind of advantage on there. You can still show a lot of your process. If they're very strong against you not putting any of their name or anything like that on there, what you can do is you can like change the name and change the project up enough so no one can make the connection to where it was done, and you can still go on and still go through a lot of your process on there. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of students that encounter the NDA situation, and it's pretty easy to navigate out there. A lot of companies are really open and respect that, this is a mutually beneficial situation that's going on, and so they don't want to just take from them. They want to be able to help this student or this new designer out there really on their career as well. So they'll definitely work with you in terms of finding like a nice balance that's not revealing their advantage, but also still really showing the amount of work and process that you went in through it.
Great, thank you. So what skills do you think are most important for a student to be successful in UX design?
So is that question specifically in the role or in finding a job?
Important skills for success in UX doesn't specify,
Okay.
so I'm guessing both.
Okay, cool. So in the role, I think, obviously having a good foundation, and that's what we really strive to do at Springboard out there, is just get everyone understanding the process, the different tools, methodologies, giving a real example on that. So having that foundation obviously is key in coming in. I think a lot of the soft skills are things people overlook, but are really important to the teams out there. So your ability to work like cross collaboratively is massive. Pretty much every company, every role that you're going to get into, you're going to be working alongside other teams, whether that's visual designers, web developers, sales, marketing, multiple stakeholders out there. So your ability to work well with other people, deliver on time, communicate well is super, super important. I think project management skills are really underrated for a UX designer as well too. And those are things that'll help you meet deadlines, help you understand priorities, help you understand where you can make concessions, because every project's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be limitations that are going to put on, at the last minute, and you're going to have to be able to adapt and switch up. And so being able to prioritize and manage your time is super important. Outside of that, I think a big thing is being someone that people want to work with. I know that's like very vague, but again, an underrated quality both in the interview process and also on the job is, people that shine is like a good culture fit and someone that can work well with others out there is again another thing that really helps kind of on the job on there too.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is a really great way for you to look at what other designers are skilled in. So if you're looking at different portfolios, go to their skills and endorsements section and see what are some of the common themes. And also, if you want to check out any of the research done by the Nielsen Norman Group, they have some free publications out there. And last year, they just came out with a publication about what it's a 90-page publication, but if I had to synthesize a lot of it, it talks about the top skills that that recruiters look for in designers. And some of those top skills are curiosity, emotional intelligence, communication skills, the soft skills, as Calvin mentioned. And then on the job, it might be something like prototyping, research skills, writing skills. So definitely perfecting and demonstrating those soft skills as well as the technical skills. Awesome. What are some easy, nice tools to use to create a website?
I'm glad someone asked that question. So we deal with this all the time. I probably reviewed hundreds, almost thousands of portfolios out there. And I would say there's really only 3 options, in my opinion, that are worth like spending some time on in terms of building your portfolio out there. And so the first 2, if you're not like remotely interested or understanding like how to do any HTML and CSS on there, and that's totally cool, look at Webflow, some of those on there. But UXfolio and Squarespace, I would say those are the 2 best ones. And there is nothing you really need to do that those websites can't do out there for you. So like a lot of students use like Weebly or Wix or number one of those others, and they always run into challenges and end up having to switch on there. And Squarespace, UXfolio are some of the best ones. UXfolio is absolutely made to help you build a portfolio. It is as simple as possible. If you have your content, I guarantee you within a weekend, you can have an amazing portfolio looking. Same with Squarespace as well too, and pretty much everything you need to do on those is easy. Great support in terms of any questions or anything like that. If you are on the other end of that and you're someone that is a little more familiar with web development and interested in kind of getting involved in there, Webflow is amazing. I use it for my own, kind of personal projects as well. Super functional. It's not fully like building your own website as in coding it, but you can still use a lot of those elements to make it really interesting in terms of like doing awesome interactions, like the Apple website. I've had students that have done that. So like your portfolio kind of comes in. But I would say like stick to those 3 out there. Keep it simple. If you're not friendly with that kind of stuff, UXfolio, Squarespace can do every single thing you need. If you're better at HTML and CSS, Webflow can be awesome. And I can always share, if anyone's interested in like any examples of those as well too, you can always reach out to the career services or even reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share portfolios that are used with each of those builders so you can see what they look like.
Great. And we have time for one last question before we have to wrap up. And then we're also going to be taking our group picture. So I want to make sure we have time for that. Someone is saying that they have had a lot of interviews, but no offers because other candidates have more aligned experience. How do students kind of get past this challenge?
Sure. Again, we encountered that a lot with students. You make it to the end of the road and, unfortunately you get that. Unfortunately, we didn't see the experience we wanted. It's frustrating because they knew along the whole way that the experience that you had on there. And so in one sense, and this is kind of a bit of a cop-out, sometimes there isn't things that you can do out there. You can put your best foot forward and there are candidates that are going to shine a little bit more. And I think it's important to recognize that and realize it's not always, your decision at the end of the day. But for the ones that are, I think just understanding first off, like having a really good idea of like, what are they focused on this role? Are they really research focused? Even if it is a generalist role out there, do they want someone with a really strong visual skill set? Do they want someone with a background in a specific industry as well too? And do your best to really shore that up before the interview process kind of gets into it out there. If you don't have a health or background in healthcare and it's a role for a healthcare company out there, do your due diligence, study up on it, get a good understanding of the user. So you show that curiosity, you show that interest, and even if you don't have that experience working with those users, you show that you can quickly develop that out there, and that can be a really great way to stand out in those interview processes. I think an important thing that a lot of people overlook too is like when you get to that 3rd stage or final stage of interviews and they tell you, sorry, it's going with someone else, absolutely ask for direct feedback on there. Send it and be like, what would have separated me from the pack? What could I have done better on there? Instead of just asking for general feedback, you're going to get more experience. If you ask specific questions, people will be like, oh, maybe your storytelling wasn't as effective. We weren't confident that you'd be able to come in and really understand our users quickly. Those kind of things can help you see where you do have some, issues or dilemmas in terms of your interviewing on there. And then the next time you get there, you can kind of have that all shored up at the end of the day. And again, the end of the day, the candidate that amazes them the most is going to be the one that takes home, not necessarily the one that has the most experience on there. So if you can show that, you're going to start turning those into offers, and really only takes one at the end of the day.
Thank you for that, Calvin. So wanted to make sure you all can see my screen here.
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. So just a little bit about Springboard. So our mission is to bridge the world skills gap, and we have a community of over 10,000 mentors and students. It's a global community, and we're working together to help each other in their careers. And some of you had some questions about Springboard and how it differentiates from other boot camps. And a couple things I want to note is that it is self-paced curriculum. It's fully 100% online, self-paced curriculum. However, that doesn't mean that we've taken the humanness out of it. And you will have support from career coaches like Calvin and also some of our mentors. And most of the time is also spent in experiential learning projects and tasks. And if you are interested, we have a partnership with the Design Buddies community. So for those of you who are interested, you can use this Design Buddies 500 promo code and to get $500 off of enrollment for any of our career track courses in UI UX or UX design. And of course, if you did have any questions about Springboard, you can always email us at hello@springboard.com. And lastly, just wanted to give a huge thank you again to the Design Buddies team for putting this on and inviting us to be part of this. All right. So Grace, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. That was really amazing information. And for anyone, I got a lot of DMs asking if it's recorded. Yes, it is recorded on our YouTube channel. And with that, we're going to take a group photo, and this will also be posted in our next announcements along with the recording as well. And after a group photo, we're going to do a fun wave for our Instagram story. We always do this at all of our events as well, just to add some fun and humanness into it. I'm going to count down to 10 so I can grab any object you want. We like to take like fun photos where we have like plushies or any object you want for a group photo, just to make ourselves stand out amongst other design communities out there as well. So I'll count down. We're going to do a group photo first and then a wave for our Instagram story. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Make sure to follow Springboard as well if you want to see a little wave and a little fun story. All right, 10, 9, 8, you can grab any object you want, your pet, your parents, anything you want. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, oh my god, Pokemon. 2, wow, it's a Baozi and the bear, oh my god. 2, 1. All right, I keep smiling because there's multiple pages and I'll make sure all of you guys are in here. All right, stay smiling until I say it's ready to wave. All right. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Really cheesy, but yeah. Right. And just get all of our pages. Oh my god, the Animal Crossing and the plant filter. Wow, you guys have really nice plushies. Oh my god, the pet. Wow. Oh my god, wow. I love seeing all of your guys' plushies. All right, we are gonna do a wave. So on my cue, feel free to start waving. You can dance, you can dab, you can wiggle your plushie. This is gonna be for our Instagram story, so make sure to follow us at design.buddies. And I will start recording. Ready, set, go. Hello, buddies. We are at How to Stand Out as a UX Career Seeker with Springboard. We have all of our buddies here today with their wonderful plushies. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a nice Thursday. All right, let me just make sure it saves. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming. This concludes our event. Make sure to connect with Calvin and Nipa and check out Springboard. We also have an affiliate link so you can get $500 off your purchase with any courses as well. Yeah, connect with Design Buddies, connect with Calvin and Nipa, and also check out our Instagram story for the recording and for our photos afterwards. Thank you very much. As always, have a wonderful Thursday and see you at our next event. We have an event with ADP List next Monday about adventure to design leadership. Make sure to join our Discord community to be the first to find out. Bye, everyone. I'm going to stop live streaming to you.